Hi everyone, my name is Misha and I am an animator. I work for the studio Edie Films, and today I will be showing you all about storyboarding and storyboarding basics. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to say is that storyboarding, it's a way to plan out your film before you start doing it. So right here I have an example from Steven Universe. Before the episode is even animated or is even made, they sketch out how they want the scenes to go. So that's basically what storyboarding is. Like, it's a very great technique to use so that your film or your short film or your episodes or whatever you're making comes out the way you want it, and it's planned and it looks good. So yeah. So first thing I'm going to show is just common terminology that's used by storyboard artists all around the world. I must say though that there's a lot to learn. Like here I just have something I found off the internet, and it's just like all the terminology that's used for all the different types of shots. And I have some here and I have some here. Feel free to pause and to look at it if you want. But yeah, I'll just be like reviewing a small amount of all of this in this lesson. But if you want to know more about the shots and the different terminologies, you can pause and look here, or you can find some more on Google. They're like everywhere, you know. So here is the most basic shot. It's usually the first shot that you see in the film, and it's called the establishing shot. So usually the establishing shot shows the setting or the place or the location of where the film is. Like each new scene usually starts off with an establishing shot, and here, for example, I started off with a drawing of outdoors, nature, mountain range, and maybe my film will take place outside, so I want to show this first. It's usually great to start off with an establishing shot. If you don't have an establishing shot, the audience and the viewers can get very confused on like where the characters are. So here I have a character that I made up. I call her like Robo Girl, because she's like this robot girl, but she's also a skater girl. Anyways, I randomly designed her, and I'm gonna use her as an example throughout this lesson. Here is like the same image as here, and even here. So this is just to show that a close-up is usually as close to the face. It's usually just a shot of just the face or an object very close up. A medium shot is usually half of the body, and a long shot is usually the full body. Here I just put lines to where it is. So an extreme close-up shot would be like her eyes only, for example. So other shots, and what they're called, is there's a straight on shot, which is just straight on the person, like that's it, nothing more than that. And then an up shot is usually when the camera is looking up to the person, so the camera is like looking up, and a down shot is usually when the camera is looking down to the person, and then a zoom in is usually shown like this, with just two boxes and then an arrow going inside. And then a zoom out is the opposite, so it's two boxes and then the arrows going outside. And then a pan usually is shown like this, like two boxes and then an arrow pointing to the next one. So the whole scene would be like this, but this would be the pan. It would be like this is what's shown, and then it moves here. So here is an example of an up shot and a down shot, and it's usually used for a dialogue between two people of different heights. So for example, this down shot here is because the character is shorter than the other person, and usually a down shot makes the character feel small and defenseless, you know? So yeah, so a down shot usually makes the character seem powerless, and then an up shot would do the opposite. It would make the character look more powerful and dominant, and it's just a body language type of thing. Like, that's why it seems that way. Like, usually stuff that's taller than us, we're like more scared of it, and stuff that's shorter than us, like, I don't know, a frog, you know, like, seems harmless to us. But like, if something is super large, like a giant, you know, we're scared of it because it looks like it can tear us apart, you know? So yeah. And even here, like, it's an upshot because the person is taller. And then here are reasons for certain types of shots. So for example, this is called the Dutch angle because the whole set is on an angle to the side, and usually this horizontal angle, it kind of symbolizes uneasiness. Usually when we see this in a film, we think something bad is gonna happen. So let me show an example. So here's a pretty good example. Well, all of these are good examples, to be honest, but you know, when the frame is set to the side like this, we think something's gonna happen, you know. It seems like the world is on edge and something dangerous is gonna happen, you know. So yeah. And I wrote here, it gives a feeling of uneasiness because something tilted usually signifies instability. Like, for example, in an earthquake, the world isn't straight, you know. The world is all over the place and on the side, and you know, it's like going everywhere. So it kind of comes from that. And then I already said this before, but a close-up just shows something in detail, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much what a close-up is for. And then here I just have like what a storyboard panel would look like. So for example, the show Steven Universe, when they do their storyboards, they write the dialogue, they write the panel number, you know, they could write the scene number if they wanted to, and they write the action and they write the timing. So here I just put some terminology, so dialogue and action, notes, so panel, you know, just stuff to just take note of if you ever want to get into storyboarding, that this is commonly what it looks like. Then here's another example, but it's kind of blurry. I got it from Google. Next thing is that silhouettes and gesture lines are super important. So what are silhouettes and gesture lines, you say? Basically, a gesture line, or also known as like a line of action, is basically the line that runs through your body. You know, it's how your body is positioned. So for example, this girl here, her body is positioned very curvy, you know, because that's how she's positioned, and here she's pretty straight, so the line of action shows her being pretty straight. So when it comes to your characters in almost every scene, make sure that they have a curvy line of action. Make sure that it's not straight, or else they'll look very stiff and it will look very not pleasing to the eye. And the reason why this is because in real life our bodies have a curve to them. When we walk or when we do any action, they have a curve to them. They're usually not straight like this. So that's why this is the way it is in animation, but I mean, this rule isn't super strict. Like, you don't have to do this. It just makes the animation look nicer and more natural if you do, but it's not like you have to do this, you know? Like, it's okay if your character looks stiff from time to time or once in a while, but it's just something that storyboard artists keep in mind. And another thing is that silhouettes are super important. So basically, a character's pose or their action has to read well in a silhouette, or else it won't read well when it's not in silhouette. So for example, here, well, actually, this isn't the best example, but here it's like in the silhouette, you're not sure what she's doing. So even when it's not in the silhouette, you won't be sure what she's doing. But I have a better example of this in the next slide. Bam, this is the next slide. So why silhouettes are important. So here in the silhouette, you're not sure if she's holding the cup, if the cup is floating in midair, and because in silhouette you're not sure of that, then even on the real drawing you might not be sure of it. But here, because her arms are more far out, then in silhouette it's clear to see that she's holding the cup. This is why silhouettes are important, so that the viewer can know what your characters are doing at any time in the frame. So another thing is that when doing storyboards, and I even have an example here from Steven Universe, they usually do shorthands of the characters. So here, this is Steven and this is Pearl, but it's kind of like a quick sketch of them. And storyboard artists usually do this to save time. So I recommend that when you're doing your storyboards to do the same thing as well in order to save time. Just, do a quick hand version of your characters, but keep the important stuff about them. So for example, keep the bow in her hair, but you can scribble her like this and people will still know who she is when they read your storyboards. And here are what they like to call the over-the-shoulder shots. So I'll show an example from Google. Over-the-shoulder shots are usually used to deliver dialogue, and it's super common. Like, you will find this in like every film, every video, like I'm telling you. So here it's just, it's a conversation between the robo girl and another girl, and it's usually the camera is over someone's shoulders. And it's super important for continuity purposes that you keep your character on the same side of the screen when you cut, when you go to another shot, because if not, it will be kind of jarring and then it will be confusing on where everyone is and people will get lost looking at your film. So for example, the robo girl, she's on the left here, so when we change shots, she'll still be on the left, and then the green girl, she'll be on the right here and she'll be on the right here. And this just makes it easier to understand what's going on. And it's only like this for a scene. If there's a transition, then this can change in another scene. Like, it doesn't have to be this way throughout the whole film, but at least for the scene that they're in where they're talking, it's very important to keep them on the same side of the screen. So here is what they like to call the 180 degrees rule, which is basically keep your characters on the same side of the screen and don't switch them. So here, as I showed before, my robo girl, she's on the left at all times, and here this is where the camera would be if she would be on the left at all times. The 180 rule is basically just choose a side of the line and stay there, like don't bring the camera here, or else if you do, then the green girl will be on the left instead, and it will be pretty jarring, and then people would be confused on where everyone is. So as I wrote here, keep the characters on the same side of the screen and pick one side and show them from that side only. And here's an image I got from Google, and I basically recreated it, so if you want to read this one instead, there's no worries, like I won't be offended. Basically, keep screen direction, so if a character is moving from left to right, keep them going in that direction between panels until they change their direction. So for example, here the character is moving from left to right, and then we cut, and they're still moving from left to right, and then we cut, and they're still moving from left to right. So that's basically what screen direction is. The same applies for when you cut. Keep the character on the same side of the frame. So for example, this girl here, she's on the left, and then on the next frame she's also on the left, and then we cut and she's also on the left. So just keep that in mind and don't change that. And it helps with continuity. Like, this is what a lot of storyboard artists do to keep continuity and to make everything clear. And here is just another image I found off Google to better explain line of action. So they're like, if the bus looks stiff, add perspective, or, add a line of action. So it's just another image. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So my task for you guys is to just test out storyboarding, and yeah, I would love to see what you come up with if you ever test out storyboarding. Like, don't hesitate to message me. Like, don't be afraid to message me and show me. I would love to see them. And that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.